Hello, and welcome to another episode of AP Taylor Swift, the podcast for Swifties who like to dive a layer deeper into the music. So lean in close, turn up your volume, because class is in session. We're your hosts. I'm Monsi.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Jody.
And we are your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of AP Taylor Swift, an incredibly special one that I have forced these two to do with me. Will they be enthusiastic? Will they suffer through? We're going to find out together, because this week we are talking about high school themed songs, specifically High School Musical, the Disney Channel original film that came out in 2006. One of my favorites. It's iconic. It's enduring. I could tell you the whole plot of it without even having to look it up. And if you are not a subscriber, subscribe to our after school content and you will hear me give you an entire summary of the first film without having to look it up, because I am 30 something years old. It's 30, almost 34. I think I'm almost 34. I'll check my math later. And I still remember every detail. So I'm incredibly excited about this episode, if you cannot tell. But before we get into it, there are general themes that go along with high school, and being a high school themed story is not a new thing that Disney Channel came up with. So, Monzi, do you want to give us some additional context and some things we can be thinking about in this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Why did we pick this theme? So random. We're an AP class Taylor Swift theme podcast. Why High School Musical? Well, first, I do want to start off with a caveat that we are actually not sponsored by Disney. Disney, if you would like to sponsor us, please. But we're doing this on our own. Nobody's making us. We don't have any inside information about a new reboot, if any. I don't know. I'm just putting it in the universe.
I'm kind of making you, but that's okay.
Yeah,
There's no money
the
behind
only
it.
person that's making us
What's
do this
really
is
funny
Jen.
about Jen making us do this episode, I mean, to be clear, Jen made us do something about High School Musical. We are extrapolating, some of us are extrapolating beyond just into high school.
Some of us, Jody.
I'm the one that always talks about high school because I'm the high school nerd that's president of my alumni board. You're the one that's always like, I hated high school.
Except for High School Musical.
Except for High School Musical, yeah. So
it was a bright, shining spot.
Well,
and the two episodes I've really pushed for on this podcast is The Wife of Bathroom Canterbury Tales and High School Musical. I feel like I've been pretty chill about everything else, but those two I was like, I want to do
when
these.
you push hard, but you don't push often.
Junior year is really Jen's moment to shine, y'all. Like, that's where we're getting all of our inspiration. But
our
outside
fully medieval episode. Anyway, sorry.
Outside of Jen's passion for High School Musical, which we all know about now, adolescence is a pretty important theme in literature. Young adult fiction, of course, is an entire genre of writing, but even in fiction for adults, classics like Catcher in the Rye, and Jody's going to talk actually more and give more examples, definitely do explore humanity through the lens of adolescence. And part of the reason why is because it is a pretty crucial, pivotal moment in most of our lives. Everyone who's an adult goes through it, and there's a definite shift that happens pre-adolescence and then post. The innocence that's kind of there in childhood, the confusion and change that happens throughout the actual period of adolescence, and then where you come up on the other side of it. There's so many books and movies that deal with this theme, and of course Taylor Swift has a lot of music as well. So I would kick it over to Jody to just share some of the examples.
Well, and I think one of the reasons that so many novels and movies and so many works of art are about adolescence and high school is because it's such a emotionally complex time, and so that makes for some really interesting characters, interesting situations and settings, and a lot of things that are really dynamic to explore, particularly in literature. In film, it creates some really interesting conflicts. So in literature, I think Catcher in the Rye is the classic J.D. Salinger, your quintessential alienated teenage story, brooding Holden Caulfield. A Separate Piece is a 1959 coming of age novel by John Knowles that I remember vividly reading in ninth grade. That's set in the New England boarding school in World War II. So you've got themes of complex friendships. and the stories narrated by the adult looking back on his adolescence, which I think provides another layer. I would connect that back to our unreliable narrator topic. A lot of these books and novels about teenage years in high school are unreliable narrators. Why? Because teenagers, well, any first person work is unreliable, but teenagers in particular are, emotional and dynamic and complex. And, the lack of those frontal lobes really means that they're not thinking very clearly. And then you have perks of being a wallflower. Stephen I can't pronounce his last name ever. I'm sorry. Chbosky. Okay.
Can't
Sensitive for
help you.
Sure.
Yep.
Why not?
You just get some really great stories about high school that I think resonate across cultures and across generations, right? Catcher in the Rye and A Separate Piece were written I know A Separate Piece was written in the 50s. When was Catcher in the Rye written? Also in the 50s?
Yeah, probably
Catcher
also
in
around
the
there.
Rye. This is where we need a producer. 1951.
51.
There we go. So yeah, and here these are classic works and that feel very relatable because the experience of being a teenager, the emotional turmoil that you go through and the social strife doesn't change. The dynamics and, cultures around you change. The world around you changes very different from 1951 to 2025 or whenever we were in high school, but the feelings of being a teenager and of being in high school don't change. And that's why I think it's really interesting to compare these themes to the way Taylor Swift captures high school, but also, of course, because Jen's making us talk about High School Musical to compare Taylor's high school lyrics to High School Musical.
Yeah, I just wanted to do it. So
Yeah.
And this is our podcast, so we get to do it.
I also think it's worth calling out that Taylor wrote about high school definitely for sure when she was a teenager, of course, and some of us are going to be speaking about her earlier music when it was probably more not appropriate, it's not the right term, more relevant
Top
to
of
her.
mind.
Top of mind. But she continues to write about high school and revisit that as a theme, and so it'll be interesting to just kind of see that.
Well, I can kick us off. I have the first song. This may be the first song on the podcast I have chosen twice. Not 100% sure, but I think there's a good chance it is. So I am discussing White Horse, which I originally talked about on our animal studies episode, which was a great one talking about the white horse and the knight and shining armor and that kind of concept. But I will be comparing it to High School Musical. But first, White Horse did come out on Fearless originally in 2008, then again on Taylor's version in 2021, and it was written by Taylor Swift and Liz Rose. So like you said, Monzi, as I was deciding what to do, I debated and I ultimately decided I really wanted to go back and listen and discuss a song she wrote while she was knee deep in the experience of being in high school. For a couple of reasons. One, I tend to be the one that goes back to the old music, and I like getting to do that since I was also listening to this music when I was in high school. But two, one of my best friends does a lot of mentorship work with high schoolers. Bless her, she has an energy I don't have. But she and I talk about this often of a high schooler will say something to her and she's like, well, in my adult mind, I know this doesn't matter. Like ultimately this is not that big of a deal. She processes it through that lens of maturity that we have, and she's like, but I always have to remember to them it does matter. Like in that moment to the high schooler it matters. And I was just reflecting on that in High School Musical and putting myself back in it, and I was like, I kind of want to get us all back into that moment and want to kick off the conversation, guessing I'd be one of the first songs. And in fact, I was. In this point of view of we're not that we really do judge a lot, like a little bit, but like I don't want us to be judging this from the adult point of view, but I wanted us to be really rooted in like, oh, being 17 is a weird time. It's just weird. And Taylor was writing about it when she was a teenager, and the movie is about teenagers, so I just kind of wanted to root it all in that. So just give some context to that. And then I chose White Horse because I think one of the really compelling things of High School Musical to me is the story of Gabriella. So she honestly is probably not characterized as much as she should. I think Disney sort of made her a little bit flat in the first movie, but she comes in as this really smart, really beautiful girl who kind of seems to have this hope for something more. She's excited to get to sing with Troy at the New Year's Eve karaoke night where they're thrown together. She enjoys singing with him. But then when people start staring at her, she freaks out about it. But like he made her feel special. And I think there was a lot of romanticizing she was doing. And she has a song that is not discussed a lot now. It's not one of the songs that's having a renaissance, but she has a song called When There Was Me and You. And it's her kind of letting go of these fairy tale dreams, and she uses fairy tale language. That's what I wanted to bring in White Horse, because that is also about that. So we're going to compare some of those lyrics to each other. So in When There Was Me and You, Gabriella sings, I thought you were my fairy tale, a dream when I'm not sleeping, a wish upon a star that's coming true. So it's past tense. I thought you were my fairy tale. The song is about how this person isn't. Troy is not her fairy tale. And then in White Horse, Taylor sings, I'm not a princess. This ain't a fairy tale. I'm not the one you'll sweep off her feet.
Jen, this
And
is so good.
And then another comparison is really this kind of before and after of this person was really enthralling you and you're realizing that's not true anymore. So Gabriella sings, I swore I knew the melody that I heard you singing, and when you smiled, you made me feel like I could sing along, which is literally talking about singing, but also obviously has this connotation of like singing together. Singing in harmony is a metaphor used for that kind of connection. And then in White Horse, we have maybe I was naive, got lost in your eyes, and never really had a chance. So the idea of both of these songs is there was someone who just swept you off your feet, but now in this song, you're having this moment of, I don't think this is going to work. You can't save me. You can't actually give me what I thought you could give me. And I really felt like that was fascinating to me to find these two songs that like truly really hone in on the same theme, like so specifically. And I was like, is this just a universal teenage girl thing where you grow up? I mean, maybe for us millennials, we grew up with those Disney movies. And then there's something in high school where things get more complicated and you realize that's probably not going to happen. I'm not the damsel in distress. I'm not going to be rescued. We talked about the Cheetah Girls a little bit in our bonus episode, and they have the song Cinderella of, I don't want to be no Cinderella. Again, I don't remember all the lyrics, but about how I'm not going to be this damsel in distress, which came out a few years before High School Musical and this. So there was this collection of songs and like collective realization that I don't know if it happens to everyone at a certain age or if millennials just grew up with the princess movies and then we're like, no.
Which I think is really interesting because we also talked about this in After School, that it was Disney that had this renaissance of animated movie musicals in the late 80s and early 90s about all these princesses and putting all these fairy tales in our head. And here it is Disney then creating High School Musical for the teenagers who grew up on those movie musicals and kind of recognizing, oh, wait, life is not like those movies that we made for you back when you were a child. Sorry, we take it back.
Yeah, and I also think that there is something, I mean, high school for so many people in that age of adolescence is the first time that you really fall hard and fall in love with somebody. And then for a lot of people, the first time you experience heartbreak. Not for me, I'm just saying, but whatever.
Okay, we get it.
Blah, blah, blah.
For a lot of people,
For some people.
the first time you experience that loss, and given how much everyone is changing and evolving in high school, it can feel like real betrayal. I think like a key theme in both of these songs is it's like a deep sense of betrayal. I thought I knew you. I thought you were the one. I've never felt strong emotions like this before, and all of a sudden I'm having this realization that actually that wasn't it. It wasn't what I thought it was. And so to go through that first love and the first heartbreak, I think is so universal. Like to me, that's why we often hear about this kind of story. But yeah, like the fact that the lyrics are almost exactly the same is kind of crazy. Just the tying it to.
Do we think
tying it to
that
fairy tales.
Taylor watched High School Musical, heard that song, and then was like, I feel that too. Let me go write a song like this?
It's
Because
certainly not
possible.
impossible. Yeah. Well, and Monza, you said this up top about the idea of adolescence being like you're going from innocence, going through change, and then coming out the other side. And I also just was so intrigued by the fact that they both talk about fairy tales because they are being betrayed by the other guy.
Yes.
But I think there's a second layer of we were
Yeah.
betrayed by the fairy tales. We were betrayed by these
Yes.
stories we were told. So
Right.
you're not a prince and you're not a knight in shining armor. And there's that disappointment. And I really wanted to talk about this because with White Horse, we don't totally know what comes next. It's
Yeah.
one song, it's not necessarily a narrative. In High School Musical, we do. And they get back together, but I think it's a really unique storyline because she says, this isn't a fairy tale. I'm learning that. Okay, great. And then what happens is he isn't a fairy tale. He doesn't save her as a knight in shining armor, but rather he apologizes. He owns up to his mistakes. He doesn't guilt her. It's like for if a
In High School
17
Musical, not in
in
White
High School
Horse. I was
Musical.
like,
Correct.
wait, where
Sorry,
does he
sorry, sorry.
apologize in White Horse? No, it's
Sorry.
okay.
In High School Musical, he apologizes. And if you watch the scene, it's so cheesy, it's so cringe. However, if a teenage boy gives that mature of an apology, like, is it an apology I would accept from my 30-something husband? I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't be thrilled. But if a teenage boy gave that apology, I'd be like, sir, yes, perfect. I love this. He owns up to things. He's really mature about it, and he says, I want to audition. I would really like it if you did too, but like I'm gonna do it anyways. I hope to see you there. Like, not guilting her, but saying like, I'm gonna stand up, I'm gonna do something about this. Would love to have you there. Like, it's just really interesting and thoughtful. And then ultimately, though, the reason everything works is because their friends work together. So it's not a knight in shining armor. It's not me and you against the world. It's a community thing. And that's actually not a message we got in those original Disney movies for the most part. A lot of it was truly just about the couple. But in High School Musical, if you watch the final scene, if you watch Breaking Free, it's their friends, it's everyone working together to say, hey, we accept you two for who you are. And it's about them getting the chance to sing, to follow all of their passions. They actually don't even kiss until the end of the second High School Musical. So it's really, it is a love story, but
they're
it's
15.
I know, but it's so much more about them getting to explore the wholeness of their interests
Yeah.
and being supported by their community and supporting each other and saying, we'll do this together. It was just so interesting that
Yeah.
it's saying this isn't a fairy tale, and then the ending is not a fairy tale, but it's so much better and it's so much mature. Like you said, innocence change coming out the other side. High School Musical, we get Gabriella coming out the other side, and it is more mature and it is more complex. It's still a teenager, but it's
Yeah.
more mature and complex than a fairy tale.
Even while she's singing this song, one thing that always stayed with me was how she smiles through the song, and she's just like, I guess you're not my fairy tale, but she was kind of like, she's
Wait,
not
High
throwing a
School
tantrum.
Musical
High
or
School
Taylor Swift?
Musical.
We gotta. I'm
Sorry.
like, there's two she's.
Sorry, yes. When Gabriella is singing this song, she's smiling. But I think the reason that it's relevant, Jody, is like because Taylor's version of the song also is so mature. Like that was something that stood out to me. It's not just like a tantrum, like
No.
heartbreak. It is very poised in some ways and graceful, and it's like, well, I guess I was wrong. Like
It's
I guess
mature.
yeah, it's very mature in both instances. I think in the visual of the High School Musical version of it, it's just the way that Vanessa Hudgens did it, and she's like smiling. I remember at one point she's like walking in the hallway, or like her hand is like running on a wall or something. She's just like, she's pensive, but she's smiling, and it's almost like the "don't cry because it's over, cry because it happened" or whatever. But she's just like, I guess you're not what I thought you were, even if you're heartbroken. And Taylor's song also is kind of like that. It's like, I guess you're not the white horse, and I'm gonna be okay.
And I think for both of them, again, we don't know what happens for Taylor after, but for Gabrielle and in High School Musical, she could not be in a good relationship if she still wanted it to be a fairy tale. It's almost like letting go of the fairy tales is what allows her to move on to whatever the next stage of growing up is.
Yeah.
And then the only final thing I'll say on this, because it's a total side note, during this song, at one point she leans against the wall, Gabriella, and there's a massive like poster of Troy's face in his Wildcats jersey. And I remember seeing someone post, I think on Reddit, someone out of the United States post and be like, I need someone to tell me if high schools in the US do this, because this is the like my only example of it, and I need someone to tell me this isn't actually real. And everyone was like, no one actually does that. Like, you have pictures of players, but it's like It's like it's like the whole wall. It's massive.
So funny.
Troy, the legend.
The man, the myth.
Well, that's amazing. I was listening to this song this morning, and I heard the fairy tale, and I was like, oh, maybe I should have gone that route and done something related to fairy tales. But I'm glad you did this because I would not have thought of White Horse, and this was great, perfect. Well, I have the next song. Mine is also off of Fearless. Jen's was track 5, and I am doing track 13. It's the song Change. Also came out in 2008 because it's on the same album, and it's written by Taylor Swift. I picked Change because to me, high school is entirely about change. Every single part of it. When I was listening to the High School Musical soundtrack, it starts with something new. They meet in over the winter break and they're karaokeing together. And your lyrics are, "This could be the start of something new. It feels so good to be here with you. Now looking in your eyes, it could be the start of something new." Also said that by memory, did not look up those lyrics. Okay.
I sung it in my head.
So and my immediate thought as I was going through the song was the song Change. And I'll go through the lyrics in a second of why I think that matches. But then as I went on to listen to the rest of the album, every single song that I was listening to, I felt could also relate to this song Change. So Get Your Head in the Game has lyrics about just focusing on the game itself. Of course, this entire movie has a theme about the importance of winning the basketball game and them being all one team. What I've been looking for is actually a Sharpay song. It's not even a Troy and Gabriella song. But I felt like that could relate to change. Stick to the status quo definitely relates to change because you have everybody who's trying to just hunker down and they're saying, don't resist, just don't question it, just stick to the status quo, when in reality, of course, everything is changing. When There Was Me and You, Bop to the Top, and then finally Breaking Free, I just felt there was a through line. So to go through the actual song itself, Taylor's song, Change, starts off with a sad picture. Final blow hits you. Somebody else gets what you wanted again. And then she talks about repeating history and believing in whatever you do. So this is where I see a little bit of the parallels about people just feeling out of place, people not really knowing where they belong, not really knowing how things fit in, and then trying to maintain that focus, whether it's focus on basketball or focusing on the maths team or whatever.
If you want to be
there's
cool,
this sense,
follow one simple rule: stick to the stuff you know.
yes, Jen, thank you. You said it beautifully. That's
That broke Jody a little bit.
But yeah, it's just stick to the status quo, do the thing that you know you're good at, and it'll be fine. But these things will change. And the entire song has this feeling of something bigger coming. And isn't that what high school is all about? It's about you going in one person and evolving through the new people you meet, through the classes you take, through the activities you try, and coming out as somebody completely different. She says, "Can you feel it now? These walls that they put up to hold us back will fall down." The first song that I heard, of course, was Start of Something New. And the Start of Something New lyrics are all about just feeling change lingering just around you. It feels like something's different. I never opened my heart to the possibilities. I know that something has changed, never felt this way. And right here tonight, this could be the start of something new. So you have this feeling of just something is going to change, something's different. And then they talk about the revolution. A time will come for us to finally win. To me, this is Troy and Gabriella winning over their friends who are trying to keep them apart. It's about the relationship, but it's also about the team and them winning as a school all together. And this idea of just overcoming and coming together in some ways. The hallelujah part really just reminded me of the last song, We're All in This Together. And so we've been outnumbered, rated now corners, hard to fight. It's hard to fight when the fight ain't fair. We're stronger now. Yeah, basically this entire song, because these things will change and you will overcome and you will come out stronger on the other side.
I love it. I also think a lot of the it's hard to fight when the fight ain't fair. We're getting stronger now. Like a lot of that message too does feel a lot like get your head in the game of, hey, we're facing
Yeah.
conflict. Lock in. We gotta do something about this. Get your head in the game, honestly. Banger.
It's such a good song. Get
Such a
your head
good
in the game
song.
and change,
Yes.
but like get your head in the game is just. Well, I also think so many of the songs in High School Musical are these are little mini iconic anthems.
Yes.
And Change is also an iconic anthem. And it's so interesting that Change is just track 13 on Fearless because it's got such big, momentous lyrics and themes. And yet it's kind of it's like at the back of the album. I know it often plays a big role. I think it played a big role on the Fearless tour. It didn't play a big role on the Eras
Mm-mm.
tour, which is interesting. But it's such an anthem for change, for lack of a better word. But for I want the word that I have to find another word that's not change. Evolution.
Yeah. When we in the past, when we've talked about looking at Taylor's albums and the progression through the different eras, sometimes we talk about how that last song and the first song are like kind of pivotal and important. And I feel like there's something there to this, just like being towards the end there of maybe like the transitional phase in Taylor's life.
This song is Room Where It Happens. That's the energy, right? Where it's that realization of it's an aha moment and then an anthem for taking action.
Yeah, it's a little. I also saw it as a coming together kind of song, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not deep diving this one, but it's not just her thinking that things
Right.
will change. It's her telling somebody else and saying, "I'm with you."
When
And so
I
one of
say it's Room Where It Happens, I mean like where in a character or musical's trajectory does this song come in
yes, like
what role
a
play?
pivotal,
And
yes,
yeah, so yes, I agree with you that
yeah,
this
but
is like more of a group community
that's what I'm
situation.
saying. Like it's also like it's not even just change is the main aspect of it. It's the pivot, but it also there's something I think about like support
Community.
that's
Yeah.
really important and community that's really important about this
Yeah.
song. It's like I'm with you. I
We're
believe in
all
you.
in this together.
Everything will change, but we're going to overcome it and we're going to win.
Well, I looked it up and she did match this song up with Long Live in one of the acoustic sets on the Eras tour, which
That
has a
makes
similar theme.
a
Yeah,
lot of sense.
it does. And I also think that the fact that just a general comment, since Monzi and I chose songs from the same album before we move on, is of course, Fearless is also a song, but the idea of naming this album Fearless, and it's this very high school girl anthemy type of album. And the whole point of High School Musical is them facing their fears of being misconstrued or stepping out of their roles and being judged for it or being put down for it or maybe losing friends over it. There's a lot of fear that comes from those things in high school and from growing up and figuring that out. I just think I've never really put together the idea that a teenage girl wrote an album and called it Fearless and how
Yeah.
awesome that
Epic.
is
How
actually.
totally
Yeah.
epic that is. Because who feels
Yeah.
fearless as a teenager?
Right.
It's
And
really
that's
hard to feel fearless as a teenager.
the
Yeah.
whole theme of High School Musical is facing your fears. And
Right.
as you were saying, Monzi, and I mentioned it too, like all the things we've talked about is how important like community is and like finding your people who accept you, and that's a huge part of growing up, and that's in every conversation we've had so far about the songs and the film. And then
Yeah.
Fearless, I just think there's like that's all just really fascinating to put together.
Yeah.
Before
So,
we pivot.
well, we are going to pivot, but I also, after I go through my song, want to do more of a comparison because I do think it's a really interesting juxtaposition. So, you both chose songs from Fearless, which were written when Taylor herself was high school age. I accelerated like 16 years to So High School, which came out in 2024 on the Tortured Poets Department. This was track 22, written by Taylor Swift and Aaron Dessner. Fun fact, wrote J.A. It's not J.A. This is an A.D. song, Aaron Dessner. And again, unlike other songs, the other two songs that we came up with, this is about high school from the perspective of an adult. And so it's a very different take, but it's also very different because this is, I don't know when we will be deep diving this, because how can you not? It's either an idealized version of high school or it's a stereotypical version of high school. This is not the same type of high school experience that she wrote about while she was in high school, which I think tells us that this is very different from her reality of what high school was like or what it felt like to be in high school. This is so high school. This is what it looks like in the movies, potentially. And the lyrics really go through a lot of very stereotypical high school experiences that either you had these experiences yourselves, or if you didn't, you probably have seen them in the movies. I want to find you in a crowd just to hide from you. I'll drink what you think, and I'm high. Bittersweet 16 suddenly. Then we've got the classic high school games. You're going to marry, kiss, or kill me. Truth, dare, spin bottles. Like, these are all very classic high school party games. Again, whether you played them yourself or whether you just saw people in the movies or on TV playing them, like, this is a stereotypical version of an American high school experience.
It's almost the non-Disney version.
Correct. And it's also a
Yes.
non-Fearless version
Yeah.
of high school. Like, we just heard two songs from Fearless, which was Taylor Swift's high school experience.
Yeah.
This ain't it.
I have some thoughts about that. Well, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, we will come back to it. So you might be thinking, Jody, where's your High School Musical tie-in? This line is the closest I have, and then I'll turn it over to Jen. You know how to
Jody
ball.
doesn't love me. I just want everyone to know that that's obviously what's happening here.
And
She didn't
Monty loves
watch
anytime
all
I fight
three.
with Jen and not Monty. So yeah, you're welcome. You know how to ball. I know Aristotle. I think this is Troy and Gabriella. Jen already disagreed with me before
I
we
mean,
hit
I think it
recording.
is too.
Right.
But
Okay.
one of the other reasons High School Musicals had a renaissance is people are realizing that the amount of chemistry that Chad and Ryan had, and because if you go watch I Don't Dance, it's the two of them, and it's a great scene. They definitely have chemistry. So I was just also going to joke that you know how to ball. You know how to ball. I know Aristotle could also be a little bit of them too. Thank you, Monty.
Amazing.
I love it.
It makes more sense for Troy and Gabriella, but
Troy and Gabriella,
whatever.
you know how to ball. I know Aristotle. But even outside of the High School Musical franchise, this is telling you about high school social structures and stereotypes, the jock and the brain. I loved The Breakfast Club when I was in high school. I went through an 80s movie kick. No, it was not the 80s. And this reminded me a lot of The Breakfast Club, John Hughes. So, really, the reflections on high school in this song are much more common in pop culture and literature than hearing from actual high schoolers about their lived high school experiences as they're going through them, which is what we saw in Fearless. And we see the other songs I thought of that Taylor has written from the perspective of an adult on high school would be like Betty and August were probably the ones that come to mind most. Again, those were written on folklore, and they are more idealized, romanticized versions of falling in love in high school or love and loss in high school. But those are also very different from songs like the two that you just brought up. Also, 15, You Belong With Me, Our Song, Should Have Said No, Picture to Burn, right? Like, those are much more about one person's experience in a relationship, whereas there's a lot of social context and social groups and friend groups in the song So High School. Your friends are around, so be quiet. You know, your touch me while your bros play Grand Theft Auto. Like, we'll get into those lines in more depth in the deep dive, but there's a lot more social groups in these songs and being part of the social groups than in her in her high school songs like 15, where she's more of a loner, and or where she or You Belong With Me, and she's cheer captain and I'm on the bleachers, right? There's this other perspective. And in So High School, she's not the other. She is in the middle of the experience, where that's not what we saw from her songs written while she was in high school.
I think so. My initial reaction is I think you're right in that in the feeling in this song, the relationship is what's really different. Like the
Mhm.
songs that we just had, the love story, the way it materialized for her in high school was this fantasy fairy tale kind
Fantasy.
of thing. Yeah, like that was the metaphor. Here, the way that the relationship is materializing is so different.
Mhm.
What this song to me does is trying to, when we talk about high school here in the context of the song, she's really trying to refer to a feeling,
Right.
and what she was referring to about love in when she was actually in high school was less about the feeling and more about the idea. And one thing though is that Jen mentioned how remarkable it is that as a high schooler, she had an entire album named Fearless. And to me, like maybe the album is the feeling. And so I do think that when you listen to So High School, like the feeling that I get is a bit of fearlessness. It's this like we can do anything. We can sneak out. We can do this. Like we're doing this while your friends are right there. Like whatever. It is this recklessness and fearlessness to some degree. I think like earlier also we mentioned how we don't typically think of high schoolers being fearless, and I think they're like yes and no. Like we think of high schoolers being more insecure and timid in some
Mhm.
regards, but there is a sense of like consequences don't
Yeah,
matter.
there's
Lack
a
of
recklessness.
yes,
I think there's
recklessness.
less of an emotional fearlessness. You're less willing as a high school student to put yourself out there emotionally.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I just think it's like interesting because here we're like catching that emotion. Like she's like, the song is about that recklessness
And
and that
so much of
fearlessness you
this
have.
song is ordinary. These are the very ordinary
Yes. Mundane. Yeah.
experiences of being in love
Mhm.
in high school. And what did she do when she was in high school? She wrote about extraordinary experiences.
Yeah.
And love is
Mhm.
this very extraordinary thing. And here it's this realization that, oh, love, being in love doesn't need to be fairy tales. It could be, you get my car door, isn't that sweet? You pull me to the back seat. No one's ever had me not like you. And so I think there's certainly more maturity in this song, in the sense that there's this acknowledgement that love isn't fairy tales, and it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be a fairy tale in order to be love, although the lyrics themselves feel on the surface much more immature because they harken back to, teenagers fooling around.
It's just like more literal rather than
Yeah, it doesn't mean the song is
imaginary.
immature.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just yeah, there's more like literal interpretations of what love looked like. But I also think there's something really beautiful in juxtaposing this song to the songs
Yes.
from when she was in high school and seeing how her evolution, how love has evolved from high school to now.
I think too, the tone of the song makes it obvious that this is a good thing. Like all of this is good. However, if you just take some snippets of this, of being pulled into the back seat or fooling around while the guy's friends are in the other room playing Grand Theft Auto, if you really love someone, those feel fun and innocent and flirty and spontaneous. And
Why
if
are you
you
ruining this song for me?
sorry, I like this song, but this is the kind of thing where if you broke up with this person, those are moments you could also look back on and be like, this ain't a fairy tale. This is what it was. And so what's interesting is the earlier songs in Fearless are so narrative driven, are so like, this is what it should be. And then this song is saying, it doesn't matter what we do if I'm doing it with you.
Right.
It's fun. It's sweet. It's flirty. So I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean it in this way of what they are doing doesn't matter as much as how they feel when they're doing it. And that is a big flip, I think, from a lot
Right.
of the songs we heard, where she was wanting a fairy tale and now she's like, dude, I don't care. that's not what's important anymore.
Right. I feel like laughing in the middle of practice.
Exactly.
Right. Like that's what matters.
That being said, it's also 1 degree removed because she is older. So I also wonder if there is like I'm feeling like I'm in high school, and like maybe that means that there is like a fairy tale about it. Like maybe this is the real fairy tale, but she almost doesn't need to say that because it's like the thing that's more important is just the immaturity or the innocence of it, maybe in some degree. Like you almost don't need to make that leap.
Yeah, and there's the nostalgia too of like it takes me back to
that feeling.
Yeah, the feeling of, again, we talked about this, like simpler times.
Oh.
For you as a person, for the world, probably not. You know, the world's always been complicated, but for you, when you're in high school, you're not worrying about all of this
about
stuff.
The world?
Exactly, and it's this idea of being back in almost that bubble that you get when you're in high school of innocence.
Oh yeah.
But she's getting it with the maturity of an adult. Of like, I get to feel like I'm young and innocent, but I'm an adult and I can have an actual relationship now.
This is Troy and Gabriella meeting for the first time, and I feel so high school. It's those butterflies.
But it was Disney. They did not fool around in the backseat. Jody, how dare you?
There's no drinking, and she's not high on anything. No one's smoking.
Yeah.
Fun fact, it took me until today to learn that the lyric was, I'll drink what you think and I'm high. I always thought it was, I'll drink what you're thinking I'm having, because I am naive.
I'll drink what you think I'm having.
Why not? I just thought it's like, yeah, I'll have whatever you're getting me. What you think I'm having, that's what I'll drink. Like, it worked for me. Maybe that's is that the clean version? Have I been listening to the clean version?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, on that note, tune in next time as we deep dive High School Musical 2. I mean, as we
deep dive High School and Jody learns what every single lyric actually
means. Oh God. Doesn't everyone want to hear that? That's all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on your social channel of choice at AP Taylor Swift to stay up to date. And join us next time as we overanalyze and deep dive into the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.